Hi, good morning. Season 4, Part 1 of You is finally out on Netflix. I've watched it 6 times, and I think that's a bit excessive, so I figured I should take a break from watching You, and instead, I'll make this video talking about it. You know, to get it out of my system. This season follows Joe living in London as Professor Jonathan Moore. He's once again caught up in this friend group of rich assholes that he hates, but these people are like next level awful. So lucky for him, someone starts killing them off. But unlucky for him, that killer wants to pin the murders on Joe and they start taunting him through text. I super enjoyed this season so far. I was a little frustrated with it releasing in 2 parts, but after watching these first 5 episodes, I actually feel really satisfied with them. The end of episode 5 felt like a fall finale, and I feel like it wrapped up enough and gave enough answers that I'm not angry about having to wait for the second half, but it also set up enough that I'm really excited to see what happens in the rest of the season. The setting changes every season, but moving to London was a really big change and it did take me a minute to get used to. But I think putting Joe in the middle of a whodunit where the you of the season is a killer that he has to figure out the identity of, that was really fun for me. And I'll admit, I like seeing Joe suffer. Paranoid Joe makes me happy. Okay, so spoiler warning for the rest of the video. So Joe's in London, but wait, why is he in London? I thought he was going to Paris to find Marianne. Well, he did go to Paris. He searched for months looking for her at every artist spot in the city until he finally found her art in the park, and he asked someone tending a nearby table for information about the artist, and he found out that she went to an art fair in London, so off to London he went. He found her in London, and when she sees him, at first she smiles, but then she realizes, wait a second, he killed Ryan, and if he's alive, that means love didn't kill him. He must have killed her. So she ran, and of course he follows her. Obviously, he finds her in an abandoned building and he tries to talk to her, but she pulls a knife to defend herself, which he immediately disarms. And she's like begging him not to kill her, kind of. And he's like, why would you even think that? Oh, gee, Joe, I wonder why. She says he's a murderer, but he decides he's gonna prove her wrong and he lets her go. He's then confronted by the Quinn family fixer, Elliot, who's been sent to kill him, but instead is offering him the identity of Jonathan Moore in exchange for all the money that Joe had withdrawn from a secret account that Love had. Joe has a chance to start this new life as Jonathan Moore, but Elliot says that he needs to kill Marianne because Marianne is the one person who knows that Joe's alive and could ruin this whole plan for the both of them. Well, instead of killing her, he just steals her locket and takes a picture of it to send to Elliot to convince him that Marianne has been taken care of. And I'm thinking, is something going to come of this? Because that's twice that Joe let Marianne live. I wonder if that's going to come back to bite him in the ass, but I'll talk more about that in the last section of the video. So in London, Joe befriends Professor Malcolm Harding, a terrible guy that he hates, who hooks him up with an apartment, flat, that just so happens to have windows looking right into Malcolm's home. So Joe watches and he sees Malcolm and his girlfriend Kate, who becomes like a romantic interest, but not necessarily a you. After blacking out during a night out with Malcolm and his new friend group, Joe wakes up and he decides, okay, this is a new day, no more craziness, back to the quiet life. And then he looks over and he sees Malcolm's dead body on his dining room table. And man, this guy does not miss a beat. He just dons his apron and gets to work taking care of the body. But oops, maybe that wasn't such a great idea because it turns out Joe's not the one that killed Malcolm. The real killer starts texting Joe, intrigued by his ability to just disappear a body. They were originally just going to pin Malcolm's murder on him, but then they realize there's a little bit more to him than they expect, and they are determined to find out what, and it does not take long. Joe comes home to find all these newsprints on his walls about the deaths of Beck and Peach, Natalie, Gil, Henderson, 40, Love, and even himself. This killer really felt like A to me, like the text, the threats to expose Joe's secrets, the omniscient ability to know everything Joe was doing at all times. I was on the lookout for a black hoodie or a red coat, and I was half expecting every text to just be signed A. So our pretty little liar spends the rest of part 1 trying to figure out who the killer is, as they kill off Simon after his art show, and Gemma while the group is vacationing at Phoebe's family's country house. Castle. At the castle is where we finally get the reveal that Rhys is the killer. And I swear, when Rhys walked up and looked down at Joe, and he says, hello, Joe, I died. I don't know why. I just loved Rhys. The whole season, there was just like, hell yeah to this guy. There's something about him. I love Rhys. So Rhys was gonna pin Malcolm's murder on Joe, but when Joe got rid of the body, Rhys was like, wait, hold on. Who is this guy? And when he finds out about Joe's past, he kind of like feels like they're the same and he relates to him and wants to work with him. But once again, Joe sees someone who reflects certain things about him back at himself, and he's disgusted. He tries to play Rhys, but Rhys catches on and realizes that Joe's lying to him, so he leaves him to die in a fire at the castle, and he says that if he's clever enough to escape, they can revisit this back in London. Joe escapes, and part 1 ends with Kate showing up to his door, asking him to the bar for a drink, to the pub for a pint, and Joe turns her down because, as he narrates, he's already in a relationship with Rhys. Oh my gosh. So Joe returns to the TV to watch as Rhys announces his run for the mayor of London. Okay, so Rhys and Joe. I didn't realize it the first time I watched, but these guys have a gravity between them. The first time is at Sundry House when Joe's sitting on his own. Rhys comes over to sit and talk with him. Then the next day when Joe's bringing back Adam's jacket, he sees Rhys at the bar and he goes over to talk to him. And in this scene, Rhys is so clearly trying to get Joe to confess to killing Malcolm, but Joe's not giving him anything. So then after he starts getting the text and he goes to dinner, Rhys is sitting right next to him. And he reaches over and he's like, "Oh, are you okay? You look sick." As if he's not the one that was just texting him. Rhys, you're crazy. I love it. And then at the art show, when Joe's staring at this picture of a cat, who pops up next to him? Rhys. And then after the art show, when everyone's mourning Simon, they're all making jokes about him. So Rhys goes outside to get some air and Joe follows him and they have another chat. Oh my gosh, they're just drawn to each other. I love it so much. I feel like there were a lot of similarities in this season to past seasons. There were a few little ones, like Adam reminded me of Benji being a rich kid that fails in the business world with his parents' money. Roald reminded me of Peach because he was in love with the main love interest and had secret creepy pictures of her and held Joe at gunpoint. In a way, Joe saving Kate from being mugged because he just happened to be following her reminded me of Joe saving Beck when she fell on the subway tracks. When Marianne pulled a knife on Joe to defend herself, it reminded me of when Candace pulled a knife on Joe to defend herself at the weekend, and he just immediately disarmed both of them. And when Joe takes Malcolm's body to the sawmill, it was really reminiscent of the Jasper disposal scene, except this one was way worse because I had to see a penis. In both seasons 2 and 4, Joe is disgusted with the you of the season when they're revealed to be a killer just like he is, but he's locked up for both reveals, and he tries to tell each killer what they want to hear. In season 2, it works with love, but then in season 4, Rhys does not fall for it. Okay, time for some theories/questions that I have for part 2. So Joe let Marianne survive twice, and I don't know if that means she's going to be coming back in part 2. Candace came after Joe, but she had nothing to lose. Marianne has her daughter, so I don't know if she takes that risk. I mean, I don't blame her if she doesn't. Joe is a dangerous person and she has to look after her daughter. So I don't know how she comes back to challenge Joe, and if she does she survive it? There is a scene in the preview for part 2 that shows Love sitting in a cage, and it's not the first time we've seen a past love interest come back to haunt Joe, but I don't know if this is a new cage that he's built or if he's imagining both Love and the cage. I hope it's a new cage that he's built. I would really like that. Trap some people, please. A little theory that I have is that Joe's flat is Rhys's. Malcolm mentions that somebody's chuffed to have him looking after the place, but Joe was tuning him out, so it's possible that Malcolm said it was Rhys's flat and Joe just didn't listen. Because Rhys has been in Joe's apartment multiple times now. 1, to kill Malcolm. 2, to realize that Malcolm's dead body isn't there anymore. 3, to hang up the newsprints all over his walls. And I think 4, he could have snuck in to hide Malcolm's ring in Joe's suit pocket for Vic to find later. And Rhys seems to always know what Joe's doing, and I know Joe has checked the place for bugs twice, but I'm thinking it's possible he could have a little security camera somewhere and he could be monitoring everything Joe's doing, and if that's the case, I would love to see Rhys's A lair. The idea that Rhys is always watching Joe is really exciting to me. I would love to see Joe paranoid and worried that he's being watched every moment and to start closing his curtains. Okay, so my last theory. Back in season 3, there were some people who thought that Theo could be the second son that Joe's mom had. And in honor of that, I propose, what if Rhys is Jakey? I mean, what if his dad has a business trip to the States and he has a one-night stand with some woman who later has a child, and something happens to that woman, so the child goes to find his dad, and his dad's like, "Oh, yuck, Jake is a peasant's name. From now on, you shall be known as Rhys, and you will speak with the proper accent." I mean, it's possible. Do I actually believe it? No. But I think it's funny. I think it's funny to think about. I mean, they both turned into psycho killers, and they had similar childhoods, and there was that brother in arms comment. Maybe it's just brother. Okay, one bonus thought that nobody's gonna like but me. But what if, in part 2, Rhys kills Joe, and then season 5 follows Rhys? I think That would be insane. I don't know if it would be good, but it was a thought that I had. They change it up every season. That would be a way to change it up. Changing your main character. Ooh. But I'd love to get inside Rhys's head. I would. I don't know. I really like Rhys. I really like him. I'd watch it. But those are my thoughts on You Season 4 so far. What did you think of it? Did you like it? Do you have any theories for part 2? Do you have a new favorite character like I do? Let me know anything you're thinking in the comments. Be sure to like and subscribe. Please and thank you. Bye.